Hello class, today we're going to look at exercises regarding counters and accumulators. We're going to start from scratch from where we started in our class on Friday. So what I have here is 3 view controllers that are going to be commanded by a single view controller.swift. And I've deleted all the code since we're going to start from scratch, and I have deleted all connections. How can you tell if you've deleted all connections? You have to click on the view controller scene, open the interface button, and choose controlling the last one, connection inspector. So as you can see, I have no connections in the first view controller scene, the second one, sorry. Only this one, which is a default one and we cannot delete. In the third one, we have no connections as well. Yet if we go to the first one, we have a few connections that we have to disconnect. So label trucks, we forgot to disconnect it, and BTN trucks. There we go. So we're free of connections, blank code, and we've just added our static objects. Let's start with exercise 1. So exercise 1 is asking us to create an app that will help an employee get the total amount of vehicles that pass through his checkpoint and the total amount of concrete that went through. So we have to start, like everything, creating our connection. So since this number we're going to change whenever we get a number of trucks, we have to connect it, and we're going to call it label trucks. Yep. The second one is volume, so we can call it label volume. If you have a different name, don't worry about it for each of your objects. My text field, I'm going to name it txt volume, since it's the volume of concrete. And my buttons, this one going to be button trucks as an action UI button. And calculate button volume as an action and UI button. Awesome. So whenever we click add truck, we want to increase this number by 1 since one truck went through our checkpoint, and whatever the user inputted here, we're going to add it over to here, to this variable. So we're going to have to create a variable called variable trucks. Is going to be equal to 0. So right here we want to increase trucks by 1, so trucks equals trucks plus 1, and display it here in this label. So label trucks dot text will be equal to the string of trucks. Pretty easy one. Great. However, when we click add trucks, we want to hold the information of the total volume of concrete the user inputted there in a variable. So we're going to create another variable called var deposits, or we can use volume, whatever. It's starting in 0 since we haven't passed any volume. So in this one, we're going to click volume, deposits is going to be equal to deposits plus whatever the user inputted there, which is text volume dot text. But we have to convert this into an integer, int, with our exclamation marks. We don't want to display the volume of add truck whenever we click add truck until we click calculate. So in this one, we're going to click, whenever we click it, we're going to display the volume of concrete. So we're going to change label volume dot text, change it equal to the integer of our deposits, the string of our deposits. That's correct. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so let's see if this works. Let's say our first truck comes in with 300 tons of concrete. Okay, we get the number of trucks. The next one 200. The next one 500. And we want to calculate the total volume. And we click calculate and we get 1000. That works perfect. What I'm just going to do here is just organize my code by adding some comments. Put here that it's exercise 1 and adding over here that we're going to start with exercise 2. Okay, exercise number 2. So, a local store has a manual system to count the number of Cokes. And each hour, the store counts the Cokes, and if the number is less than 100, the employee will supply 1,000 more Cokes. Create an app that will control this process and will display how many supply orders were done. So, here, our objects, we have the number of Cokes available, which is whatever the user inputs here, plus 1,000 if it was less than 100. So let's start by creating our connections. We can call this label Cokes. The txt we can call txt Cokes. And finally, our button we can call btn Cokes. We're going to have to create a variable that will hold the information of whatever the user inputs. So we're going to call this var Cokes equals to 0. Okay. Then, whenever we click calculate, we're going to change. So, okay. Cokes is going to be equal to the integer of whatever the user inputs. So txt Cokes dot text, boom. And if Cokes is less than 100, then we're going to open our brackets. Cokes will be equal to Cokes plus 1,000, else Cokes equals Cokes. And since Cokes does equal Cokes, we don't even have to put the else here. We can just delete it. And when we click calculate, we just have, after the if, we have to change the label Cokes.text equal to the string of Cokes. Okay, so what we're going to do is Cokes, we're going to change it to whatever the user inputs here. And if, let's say, if it's 80, since it's 80, then Cokes will be equal to Cokes, which is 80 plus 1,000. So then it will display the result in this number. So let's run this one as well. Okay, let's see if this works. Oh, we haven't created our connection to the next exercise. Let's change that. So we're grabbing exercise 2 button and dragging it, control dragging it and showing. Doing the same for our second view and our third view. And let's click run once more. Let's head over to exercise 2 and let's do our same example as before, 80. So we get 1,080, but if it were 120, then we don't add 1,000 to it. Perfect. Lastly, let's focus on exercise 3. During the class we had an error which I couldn't figure out, and the error was regarding getting the value of a text field incorrectly. So let's try it once more. Exercise 3. So, exercise 3 is asking us to create a calculator that whenever the user inputs information here, we'll click deposit, which we already used incorrectly that variable up here, which was supposed to be volume. We can actually change it. We can change volume here and deposits here, volume and volume. And that's perfect. So we're going to use a variable called deposits, which when we put some information here, let's say 10,000 pesos, deposits will be equal to whatever the user inputted there. And we have an error here, deposits. Great. Okay, so whenever we click calculate monthly interest, we want to change this blank label to say something like your capital, which is 10,000, plus interest, which is the 2% we generate each month, for the month of blank will be, and the result will be shown here. So let's try doing that. We're going to start with our connections. The first one is going to be label month. Second one is going to be the 0, which is going to be label money. The text field we can call text deposit. And our buttons, this one BTN deposit. And this one, whatever, maybe calculate. So, as always, we're going to create a variable outside our button, which we're doing that so whenever we click the button, we don't reset the button to 0, the variable. So this variable we'll call deposit. Right now it's equal to 0. Whenever we click deposit, we want to change that deposit equal to whatever the user imported here, which is txt deposit.text. That's all it's doing in this one. So if we put 10,000 pesos here, we click deposit, nothing is going to change visually, but we're changing this variable deposit to 10,000. Great. Next up, calculate monthly interest. So, monthly interest. We need many ifs to calculate which day of the month it is. So, let's start by creating a var month equal to 1, since we're already in January. The next one will be 2, which is February, and so on and so forth. Whenever we click that, we want to create an if that checks which month it is. And if so, we're going to change the label here to display month. There are many ways we can do this, but I'm just going to start with if month is equal to 1. Well, we can start by adding month equals month plus 1. Or we can add it at the end, maybe. So if month equals 1, then we're going to change what? We're going to change this label. Oh, we forgot it's 2 equal signs. We're going to change this label called label month dot text equal to maybe your capital plus interest for the month of, maybe put a backslash here, month well, we can change this outside of our if. We'll put it later. So we can create another variable called var month name equals to blank, and change that month name equal to January. And we can add the else if month equals 2, and change this one to February. February. We can copy and paste this one, and if it's 3, it's March. Copy and paste it. If it's 4, it's April. If it's 5, May. 6, June. 7, July. 8, August. 9, September. 10, October. 11, November. And finally 12, December. We can actually end it with an else, because if it's not either of these, then else it's 12, but we can keep it the same. Okay, so what we're doing here is whenever we have a month, so the first month will be January. You can start it with a 1 or adding the counter here, or adding it at the end. Since I want to display January, in some cases I'm going to add it at the end. So month equals month plus 1. So right now, if we were to run our code, then we would get a month of 1. Month of 1 would be January, and we're not changing the labels yet. So let's start doing that. Let's change label month dot text equal to your capital plus interest for the month of, and we are going to put a forward slash, and add our month name is okay. And we have to change this label called money. Label money will be equal to, and we require another variable to store the amount of capital here. So we can call that var money equal to $0 right now. Well, we can change it equal, oh, it's the deposit one. So we already have deposit. We don't require this variable. So we're going to change deposit equals deposit times 1.02, which is 2% additional to whatever the user inputted here. And we're getting an error. Okay, it's regarding integers. So right now, deposits, this variable is seen as an integer by the computer. If we add 0.0, we're changing it, and it's looking at it as a double. And we can also change this one to a double, which we need because we're going to be using decimal points. And our error is gone. Okay. So there we go. So next up, we've calculated the change of the compound interest, and we just have to change the label, deposit, label, I can't remember how we called it, money, yep, dot text will be equal to string of our deposit. Great. So I think we're about done. First up, we're having a month of 1, month name of nothing. The button will check which month it is, in this case January. If it's January, then I'll change this blank button to your capital plus interest for the month of, and display January is, and we'll change this label from, if it were 10,000 as a deposit, initial deposit in the previous button, to deposit times 1.02, and it will display it as a string. One thing I'd like to add is that we can change the format here. We can add just format, 2 points, and add a quotes here, and the format for 2 decimal points is percentage symbol to F, and just add a comma there. We can even add a number sign. We just wanted to show a format without like multiple decimal points. We just want 2 decimal points for money. So let's see if this one works. Let's head over to exercise 3, and with our example, let's follow it, that we're investing initially 10,000 pesos. We click deposit, and now we can calculate our monthly interest. So your capital plus interest for the month of January is, I don't think our format worked, so we must check that, but it is getting 2% of 10,000. So if we click it again, January is not changing. We have an error there, but our calculation is working. So let's head over here. It's not working because we're not adding month plus 1. So month equals month plus 1, and our format, if I'm not mistaken, must be, we're missing just 1 period here. Okay, let's run it once more. Once again, let's head over to exercise 3. Initial investment of 10,000. We deposit it and we calculate for January. We get 2 decimal points, that's correct. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So by the end of the year, with a 2% monthly interest, instead of having 10,000 pesos, we would have 12,682 pesos. If we click it once more, we don't have a month 13, so it's just going to be stuck in December. So we can either fix that by looping it once more and adding a year. So this will be 2019, and for this next one, it will be January 2020. So you can either start changing that, or in this case, for this exercise, we can leave it like that to not overcomplicate the exercise. And that's about it. We can change to exercise 1, exercise 2, and exercise 3.